Today's episode is brought to you by DNA Sports Training. If you or someone you know wants to take their game to the next level, then hit up DNA Sports Training. Visit DNASportsDenver.com to book a training session. We offer specialized sports training from football to track and field and everything else in between. Whether you're an offensive lineman or defensive lineman wanting to get better off the ball, or you're an athlete wanting to improve your speed and agility, we have something for you over at DNA. Visit DNASportsDenver.com right now and sign up.
Yeah.
Yo, yo.
Get that cipher started. Get that cipher started.
And we back.
Yo, there's a mouthful to begin with, huh?
Hey, man. Sometimes it starts out like that.
Man, if y'all can see behind the scenes, you'd have just as much fun as we do. But we hope you have just as much fun as we do joining in, listening. And as always, we thank you once again for tuning in and listening. This is the DNA Sports Podcast. I am Coach Alice, alongside my boy,
Coach Don, baby, and we're back. Hey, and we're here today to talk everything Super Bowl related and everything that's been going on. So for all of our viewers out there, if you're rocking with us, we appreciate you. Continue to share your experiences with the DNA podcast with your friends, family, so that way we can gain more viewers and more listeners out there.
Man, DNASportsDenver.com. Once again, DNASportsDenver.com. Make sure you hit the website, subscribe, follow, like, whatever you got to do to stay tuned with what we're doing. As usual, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Don, appreciate y'all tuning in. Man, busy sports week this weekend.
Very busy, man.
I think the wise guys in Vegas are going to be pretty busy watching what goes on with the fights tonight, Super Bowl tomorrow.
Yeah, if you're a sports fan, you can't complain about this weekend. You know, like you said, you got fights tonight. Pretty much when it's UFC, it's an afternoon to evening event.
Yeah, that's an all-day thing.
Event. So you have today filled with UFC matches, and tomorrow the big game, baby.
The big game. I don't know how the copyright and all that stuff works on podcasts, but we done said it a few times, and I don't care. Flag me. I know on the radio they always got to advertise their stuff as the big game, but I think that's when you're trying to sell your product. We're not trying to sell your product. We're trying to hype up the game, man. If anything, we're lending support to the game with our little following and, all you folks following. Who you got, man? Not you, Dom. Not you. We'll get into that later. We're going to preview the Super Bowl in our back end of the segments today. Dom's got a really cool story he found about a gentleman that's prepping for the Super Bowl in terms of the field. He's been doing this every Super Bowl, right?
An unsung hero.
Unsung hero, the one that makes the grass just perfect to fall on, just perfect to cut on. So we'll have that coming up for you. Obviously, our Super Bowl picks and our Super Bowl preview we'll have coming up for you. Got a great mailbag question in the bag today that we'll have for you, also pertaining towards the Super Bowl.
And it was also a busy week in the NBA that we're going to touch on as well.
Super busy week in the NBA, man. A lot of teams try to stake their claim to that crown here in February, and unfortunately for the NBA, championships aren't won in February, they're won in June. Championships are won in the NFL in February, however, but like Don mentioned, super busy trade deadline for the NBA. You've seen the Lakers, the Suns, all position themselves to be better and fight for that playoff spot. The Nuggets, some subtle moves. I think people locally around here were a little upset with some of the trades, getting rid of Bones for virtually nothing. And then, they didn't make big splashy moves. But I thought the moves they made were necessary moves and were decent moves. What are your feelings overall with the trade deadline?
I thought there was some exciting things that went on. The Nuggets did make a few moves and got better on the bench, in regards to big men. But there was also some teams in the West that got better and can be a concern later on down the stretch of things.
Obviously, the big one is Kevin Durant going to the Phoenix Suns.
Yep.
Now you mix Kevin Durant with Devin Booker, Chris Paul, with DeAndre Ayton, and all of a sudden the Suns are looking very, very formidable. I've got a lot of questions with that one still, though, bro, because they landed one of the best players in the league, but he's been hurt a lot lately.
Yeah.
And he is hurt now, coming off injury, and I think he's supposed to be back right around or after the All-Star break. But it's one of those things, man, where that star power, that name recognition, right? And all of a sudden in 24 hours, it went from, these Nuggets are looking good to the Suns are going to catch the Nuggets, and they're still sitting about 8 games back from the Nuggets. So I'm not too concerned on that aspect, to be honest with you. I was intrigued by what the Lakers did.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to talk about that one, man. Three-way trade on that one,
dude. I think if I was to grade, the trade deadline, I think the Lakers probably did best for themselves out of all the teams, in my opinion. They're hovering around that 13-14 spot right now, and they're just outside the play-in tournament. They got the GOAT now on their team with LeBron James, right? Congratulations on breaking that record of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record. And he didn't have enough support. Like, I don't think they had, AD's always hurt.
I seen a meme the other day. You said GOAT, and it just triggered something in me.
I didn't mean to say.
I'm sorry, but I seen a meme the other day, and it said if Wilt had 6 rings and he was the highest scorer in the league and never considered the greatest, the GOAT, right? It was always Jordan. Why is LeBron all?
Yeah, we're talking about Kareem. I seen the same meme. Yep, I seen the same meme. Yeah, that's true. You got Bill Russell with 11 rings.
There's one GOAT.
Yeah. I think for generations, each generation has its own GOAT. And I think right now you can argue it's LeBron for their generation, for his generation of players. You kind of got Kobe as a tweener between LeBron and MJ. But nonetheless, though, trade deadline-wise, the Lakers did great for themselves, man. They got rid of Russell Westbrook, which I think was more – I think that's what does they call that, addition by subtraction? I think getting him out, and he was starting to become insubordinate. He was pulled off the court a couple games ago and took his sweet time. Almost got a delay of game penalty for the Lakers, and him and Darvin Ham got into it a little bit. So
yeah, it just seemed like it wasn't a right fit for him.
And they kept trying to force it.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those ones where they bring in this star that they think is going to be a great contribution to the team, and personalities just don't mesh sometimes, you know what I mean? And it showed on the court, and I kind of think it's transpiring before our eyes with the trade. So
and he was relegated to the bench. He essentially was a 6th person coming off the bench. Just not his role. It's wild to think since Russell Westbrook has signed that 5-year Supermax deal, he's been on 5 different teams. Yeah. This is his 5th team he's been on. Obviously, I think Utah and Russ are talking about a buyout, so he might be joining the 6th team here soon. A lot of speculation about the Clippers trying to go in there and swoop him up. The Clippers doing a lot of trades this week too, sending John Wall back to Houston, sending Reggie Jackson away. There's a lot of stuff going on with that. To get back to the Nuggets, they brought in Thomas Bryant from the Lakers for 3 second-round picks and Devon Reed. I like the pick for the Nuggets, man. I think Bryant can add a lot of depth down low. He adds a little more physicality down low coming off the bench. I like DeAndre Jordan. I like what he's brought to the team as far as a leadership standpoint and as far as a mentor standpoint, but he's not that guy no more, right? And we don't have that gritty kind of down low presence, and I think Thomas Bryant's going to provide that for the Nuggets. I'm kind of excited to see that.
I agree too, because when you're bringing Joker off the court, right, and you're bringing in some of those bench players and those role players, we really are missing a bigger presence and more of an aggressor, like you say. So hopefully he can bring us that Dennis Rodman-esque type of physicality in the paint, you know what I mean, and get some of those boards. Let me ask you, what do you think about the Kyrie Irving trade?
Kyrie going to Dallas, you know what? And all the hype that the trade deadline was, that one happened a few days before the deadline, and I almost forgot about it.
Well, there was a lot of controversy, too, because he tweeted the image of the Laker jersey, and everybody started saying, he's going back to
I know the Lakers were pushing for him. They were trying. I was actually surprised that it was Dallas that came through and swooped him up, I think it's an interesting move. I'm curious to see what him and Luka look like together playing.
Yeah.
Kyrie's a great basketball player. I don't think there's any question about his ability. It's his availability sometimes that comes into question, and it's some of the stuff that he got going on around him. I'm not one to go into them talks with what he's got going on around him. He's a interesting and kind of unique cat, and I'll leave it at that. But as a basketball player, you're hard pressed to find another guy that can take over a game just like he can.
Well, and I don't want to speak too much on speculation and rumor, but there has already been some speculation and rumor behind it, as Dallas might be a temporary home for him, and Phoenix might be more of a place where where he's going to end up landing up later on down the road. You know, again, it's speculation, but if they pair.
Well, his contract expires this year, so Dallas is kind of going out on a limb trying to get him there and then seeing if they can re-sign him. So there is that too. That could probably lend to the speculation. And let's be real, if he doesn't want to finish off in Dallas this year, if this test run, so to speak, doesn't go well, he's pretty going to be free to go wherever he wants to go at the end of the year.
Yeah, it'll be pretty nasty to see him and KD in Phoenix.
Yeah, you would think maybe at some point, man, there's going to be an odd man out because they've already he would have to go back to the point and play point. You're going to have to rotate with Chris Paul or Chris Paul be gone.
Yeah.
Devin Booker's there. I mean, you're going to have a lot of ball-dominant players there. I mean, as it is now, the good thing about having Chris Paul is he doesn't need to score. He can just be a facilitator, and he's perfectly fine with that. So there is that. I think you're going to run into the problem that the Lakers of 04 ran into when they had Shaq, they had the mailman, they had Gary Payton, they had Kobe, they had all these alphas on the team, and at some point, who's going to defer?
Yeah,
and you may run into that with Phoenix this year. I still question Phoenix's health. Right. They've been banged up all year long. Devin Booker's missed time. Chris Paul's missed time. Now KD's missing time because of a MCL strain. I question their health, and I wonder how long they're going to be able to hold up, and if they're going to be able to hold up for that long haul. Now the experience they have, it's wild, man. You got KD coming off. Dude, if he's the scary one. He's torched the Nuggets for a number of years when he was with Oklahoma City. That's going to be an interesting one, bro. I do think Phoenix is going to make a little push. I really like what the Nuggets got going on right now. You mentioned, having someone come off the bench for Jokic. I was trying to find the numbers, but I can't find the story that I was reading. But the Nuggets, when Jokic is on the court versus when he's off the court, is night and day.
Yeah. It's visibly night.
Yeah. I mean, they're so good when he's on the court. He does so much more than just score.
Yeah.
He facilitates. He does a lot of good things. Up until this last game, I think he was on like a 4-game triple-double streak. He does so much for them, but when he's off the court, they miss him a lot. And so I'm hoping now with Bryant coming in, he can fill the bucket a little bit. He's more physical down low, and you might even be able to pair him with Jokic on a couple of pairings. It just provides more depth. There was before the hype with Phoenix and before KD went over to Phoenix, everybody was applauding the Nuggets.
Yeah, everyone
was saying they had the deepest team in the league, the deepest bench in the league, and I still think that's true even without Bones.
Yeah,
I don't think. And this is why I'm not so sad about letting Bones go. It's going to suck if that dude blows up because he may blow up.
Yeah, he looks like he's going to have a promising career.
But he's going to be sitting behind Paul George and Kawhi over there in Los Angeles right now. What Bones provides off the bench, we have with the Nuggets still. We still have guys that can come off the bench and score points for us. What he doesn't provide is what the Nuggets needed the most: the physicality, the defense, and that's why I think the Nuggets are going to be a big player for Reggie Jackson in the buyout market. If Reggie Jackson gets bought out, which the speculation is that he's going to get bought out. I think he got traded to Charlotte. So the speculation is he's going to get bought out of that contract. So the Nuggets are primed to jump on that. They should. They could use another point guard, a true point guard that can kind of help facilitate a little bit, take some of the pressure off of Jamal, take some of the pressure off of Bruce Brown, let Christian Brown come in and kind of play a role. So I'm excited with it, man. It's definitely hearing the buzz and hearing everybody talk about how the Nuggets didn't do anything or didn't make a big enough splash. We didn't need to make a splashy move. We needed to make a move that kind of reinforced what we got. Our big four is playing really well right now. I mean, even Michael Porter Jr. is starting to come into his own, scoring a lot of points. Jamal's been on this little streak. He's missed a couple games with some knee soreness in the non-surgically repaired knee. But I think we're good, man. I think we're okay with what we're doing. We just got to continue making the right moves and continue pressing forward.
Yeah. Hey, and with that said, man, we're going to move on to the next topic and talk a little bit of UFC because that's what's going on today. And, it's going to be an exciting bout. There's a lot of good matches on it. Which bout are you looking forward to the most, Coach?
I'm looking at that main event, brother. I'm looking at that Alexander Volkanovski and Islam, man. Champion versus champion. Both fellas come in with just one loss. Both fellas come in looking super dominant over the last couple fights. So I think that matchup right there is going to be a really good one. Looking at the height differential, though, man, I didn't realize Volkanovski's only 5'5", dude. That's a little guy that can just whoop somebody's ass, man. Yeah. That's a scary dude, And then Islam, man, he's been coming in looking super dominant in his last few bouts and just what he's been doing with the UFC. So I look forward to that one. I also look forward to that Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett fight. That should be a pretty good fight too.
Yeah, that's the one I'm looking forward to. And mostly because, Yair Rodriguez has kind of not really been in that many bouts in the last half a decade or so.
Yeah.
But he's an exciting fighter. They're both exciting fighters, and it should make for one of those brawls and an exciting match, But back to the main event a little bit, I'm riding with Islam. I don't know who you said, but it's gonna be a battle, bro. And these two co-main events, the co-main event and the main event itself, are just, they can sell a card all on their own, and the undercard and everything that else is going on today. It's gonna be a great night for UFC.
Yeah, man. I really want to go Volkanovski. I wonder if Islam's going to be a little too big for him, a little too much for him. There's almost like a 10-pound weight discrepancy just in their normal at stance weights,
But Volkanovski's counter grappling is just ridiculous, bro. He's a guy that if you get clinched up with him, you better watch out, because before you know it, he's choking your ass out. So it's like you said, man, it's going to be a great bout. Like, I'm just excited to see it.
Man, he's, Islam's another one of them Dagestan fighters, though, bro. In the long line of them, and that boy can crack, and he's not afraid to fight with you how you want to fight with you. If you want to grapple, we can grapple, and if you want to throw, we could throw. I'm gonna root for Volkanovski. I just wouldn't be surprised if Islam takes that fight, and I won't be upset either, man. Like, I just want to see a good fight. I just want to see just some warriors go out there. That's always my favorite kind of fights, is when these guys go out there and they can be warriors and they can crack.
Yeah, for sure. That Justin Tafa and Parker Porter fight should be pretty good too. A couple of the bigger guys just kind of going in there and slugging it out, see who could outlast the other.
Yeah, man. You gotta love when the big boys get in there and the bigger fellas get in there and start throwing some haymakers, start throwing some bombs. You never know when it could be night lights out for somebody too. We're talking about warriors, man. And before we proceed on, I just want to give a little special shout out to a warrior, Brandon Royval, man. He stopped by over at North High School. Shout out to Coach Gabe Aguilera over there. But he was there, and he worked with some of the young high school wrestlers over there, gave him a little pep talk and shared some of his stories and his coming up. He's the number 3 flyweight in UFC right now. So big shout out for that, man. It's always cool when these guys that are, a lot of them are local. It's crazy how many people you got here that are local, that train here, that work here. Maybe they're not from here, but they maybe relocated here. It's cool to see them guys come back to the high school and give back and show some love to these inner city youth and try to get these young people inspired to achieve more, be more, and prep harder. So shout out to Brandon Royval, and shout out to Coach Aggs and the North Viking Wrestling folks with going into regionals and all that they're about to do. So good luck, fellas. And but yeah, man, it's always, my favorite is watching the big heavyweights fight in the UFC.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when you get those big guys in the ring and you see, the ones that have the extra amount of endurance to go for those long fights. You know, we've all been in scuffles in our lives, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And we've all been to the point where, you know, we're getting totally drained from throwing punches and everything like that, and we're gassed out, you know, and to see these big dudes in there totally gassed out, still giving it everything they got, you know, wrestling on the mat, standing up, going toe-to-toe, you know, from everything that they do to put on a show for us, man, it's truly great to see.
You know, we'll talk about this more coming up too. But since we're on the topic of UFC and we're talking about heavyweights, how about March 4th, freaking John Jones making his return to the UFC as a heavyweight fighting Cyril Gane. Like, dude, that's gonna be a tough fight. Cyril Gane, he's no joke.
Yeah.
He's no slouch. He's a good striker and he's a good fighter.
Yeah, but you know, I respect people that take little hiatuses and come back, and when they come back, they go for the top. You know, they're not trying to work their way back up. They're going after somebody who's a dog. You know what I mean? Somebody who is known to do his thing, and he ain't shying away from it.
No.
Jones is like, let's get it. I'm a dog, you're a dog. Let's have a dog fight.
You know, and everyone was hyped to see Jones versus Francis Ngannou.
Yep.
And that kind of didn't go through. I think Francis's contract is up with the UFC, and so what better person to throw him in there against? The only person that Cyril Gane lost to was Ngannou, you know, so it should be a good fight, man. I think it'll be a good litmus test for John Jones to see how he is up there on that heavyweight level, and just to see, man, like, I'm interested to see how much weight he packed on, because he looks ripped, bro. From some of the video I've seen and some of the pictures I've seen of him, he looks super ripped. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, just because he took a hiatus from this doesn't mean he's taking a hiatus from getting right and staying right.
Oh, I'm
You know
sure
what
he
saying?
take a hiatus.
Yeah.
Nah, shout out to John Jones, man. He's probably still one of my favorite UFC fighters, and you know, I put him up there. I mean, you know, he beat some of the guys he's beaten in his career. Is just a long list of great fighters. So it'll be interesting to see. Going back to tomorrow to tonight's fights, as we record this. What are you? Are you the type that wants to see like just a brutal knockout, or are you okay with like some you know, grappling and kind of working control over a person? Like, you know, some people get bored with when they're fighting on the ground. Yeah, well, not even ground and pound, but just when they're trying to work for submissions and things like that.
No, I'm all for it all. You know, the one thing that I don't like is when we use the ground to buy time to you know, get that energy, and it's more of a hugging fest down there.
Yeah,
you know, that's when I don't like it.
Just put him in the garden, sit on him or something.
Yeah, but in all honesty, if you're that type of fighter and you think you're gonna sit in that position for a long time with guys who are, you know, high level grapplers, you're gonna get caught slipping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's pretty amazing to see somebody that looks like they're about to lose the match turn around and get somebody in a rear naked choke or a triangle, and all of a sudden it's game over. You know what I mean? So I'm all for it both, bro. Of course, everybody likes those big old slugfests, but it's the UFC, so grappling is a big part of it. Jiu-jitsu is a big part of it, and I love to see every aspect of UFC when I'm watching a fight.
You know, that's like that Oliveira Chimaev fight, you know, with Khamzat, where everyone was like was like, Oliveira wants to get him on the ground, wants to let him go to the ground. And Khamzat was like, fuck it, let's go to the ground then. And you know, he ended that fight.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's awesome to see dudes that aren't afraid to mix up their style. Going back to Cyril Gane and Francis Ngannou. You know, Ngannou is always known for this big striker, you know, not known for his technique on the ground as much. But then Cyril Gane wanted to make that fight a ground fight, and Ngannou obliged and dominated that fight and controlled that fight on the ground. So,
well, I think that's the great part about it too. It's like a chess match, right? When you see two different style of fighters, one who's a stand-up, you know, I'm a punch you, I'm a fighter,
Yep.
and the other one who's gonna take it to the ground, and you see them both trying to position themselves to dictate the match in the way they want to dictate it. But when it gets to the uncomfortable position, it's also very interesting to see how they react and respond to that.
they're all about it. Like, fuck it, you want to go to the ground? Let's go to the ground.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I love a well-rounded fighter. I mean, I love good strikers. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing like watching a dude get cracked and then just lights go out and you're
Yeah.
like, oh shit, he just knocked him out.
Yeah.
But there's also something to be said about just pure dominance, and it's like, hey, I don't care how you want to come at me in this fight, you're not beating me. I'm going to do everything you do best better, you know, and you got to love that. Speaking about people doing things the best better, shout out to Anytime Flood Restoration for all of your water damage cleanup, mold remediation, and structural dry out needs. Call my folks over at Anytime Flood Restoration, 720-837-1184, or you can visit them at their website at anytimefloodrestoration.com. Yo, they're A+ rated with the BBB, licensed, bonded, insured, and certified with the IICRC. Hit up my boy Zach, man. Make sure you tell him DNA Sports Training sent you over there. They'll take care of you real nice, man. Sometimes in our hardest moments, in our hardest times, we need a company that'll get our back and take care of us, and that's what Anytime Flood Restoration would do. So shout out to Anytime Flood Restoration. Once again, shout out to you guys for listening. Yo, hit up DNASportsDenver.com right now. Book yourself a training session, tune into the podcast, buy yourself some merchandise, anything you could do to show your support to us and what we do. Share it, like it, whatever, man. We appreciate you as always tuning in. Dom, we kind of mentioned it as we were getting into the program today. It's Super Bowl Sunday tomorrow.
A lot of history, man. And a lot of the times we talk about the game, right? But we don't talk about the game within the game necessarily. And I'm not talking about football, right? If you watch the NFL Honors, I want to take this time to give a shout out to all the medical and emergency response staff that was present for the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals game, and everybody who helped DeMar, you know, on his recovery and is continuing to help him. You guys are truly heroes in this country, and hats off to you.
I'm sorry, Dom, I don't mean to cut you off,
You're
man.
good.
It takes a special person to do that stuff, man, whether it be first responders, police, military. Like, you know, people crap on them a lot, and there's a lot of discrepancies, and it's like any other group of people, right? There's great ones, and then there's a handful that can kind of give you a bad name or a sour taste. But yo, these people, firefighters, you know, first responders, police, they jump into the line of duty sometimes. They jump into the line of danger sometimes, with no thought of their own safety, no thought of you know, they got families and shit that they want to return to too. And so big shout out to them folks, man. If you know, those folks that are willing to sacrifice the South to take care of somebody else, man, that's always big in my book, and they always get the most love and respect in my book.
For sure, man. And we always got to shout out the people who don't get the shout outs and deserve it. And that's what this next topic is about. You know,
the unsung heroes.
Exactly. Oftentimes, you know, we're watching these games and we don't realize that everybody plays a part in putting on these games week after week, night after night.
Yes, sir.
And it all starts with the grounds teams. In all these NFL stadiums, there's ground crews that get this field prepped and ready to go. You know, whether they're rolling it in, rolling it out, cutting it, painting it, whatever they do, they are preparing the field so that way we can enjoy the game that we love most. And there's one specific guy whose hands above the rest. It's the Sod Father. Yes, I said it, ladies and gentlemen, the Sod Father. He's been groundskeeping for every Super Bowl in the history of our game.
Wow.
He started with Super Bowl I with a budget of $500. And now he's getting ready to be the groundskeeper for yet another Super Bowl at the age of 94.
Wow. 94 years old?
94 years old. The god of sod. His name is George Toma. He's a legendary figure in the NFL. You know, there's a lot of groundskeepers. You know, we have one here locally. He's our friend, Abe Picasso. You know what I mean? His family has been with the Denver Broncos for years. And so we know what kind of work he puts in to put on a great show over at Invesco, at Mile High, when all the stadiums that it's ever been, they do a great job there. And that speaks to a guy like the Sod Father, you know, and this guy for 94 years old, still doing it, man. It's damn impressive. So shout out to him.
That's a hell of a job to have too, man, to be, you know, you think about the responsibility that falls on a person's back.
And the stress.
100 million viewers. Right, for the Super Bowl, they're expecting over 100 million. I think there's like 120 million is what's expected, right? And for that field to look pristine and to be ready to go, and you know, you got a lot of. I don't know if people realize how particular football players are about fields. You hear about it all the time in preseason games and regular season games where, people are trashing the field and saying that, it's horrible field and horrible footing. And that's the last thing you want to have in the Super Bowl, right? You don't want to have anybody complaining about it. And as far as I know, and even in some of the craziest conditions, there hasn't been an issue, man. So
Toma goes on to say that this is the second best grass field that we've had in 57 Super Bowls. So this game should be an exciting one, and they're going to be playing it on one of the best fields coming from the guy who knows best.
That's a cool field over there, too. State Farm Stadium. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Allegiant where the grass rolls in and out. Like you can take the grass out the stadium so you can get some sunlight and stuff. And so that thing will roll out and roll back in. That stadium's massive too, bro.
You want an interesting fact about that?
What's it?
The field costs roughly $800,000.
Good Lord.
And took around 18 months to grow.
Wow.
Just imagine, bro, the stress of it, right? If you're the groundskeeper, right, and the night before the big game, you don't sleep. You're not sleeping because what if you wake up the next day and there's a chunk out of the grass, or
goddamn
you wake
groundhogs
up and it's dead, or you never know, bro. Like
it got super dry and it's a little yellow.
Yeah, these
bro.
are all the things I'm sure that's going through their heads at night. And then for me, I wonder, you've been doing this for all these years. What does your grass at home look like?
Right, he's got brown grass at home.
Yeah, or does he have a fucking football field in his backyard? You
mentioned George Toma. He's done this for every Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
So my first thought goes back to that Super Bowl. I forget the number of the Super Bowl. I think it was like 2006 or 2007 when it was the Colts versus the Bears in Miami and it was raining.
Yeah.
What do you think? You think he was stressed out on that? Because, it's raining. The rain's going to mess up the field. Like, you could do your best job and have the rain fall and kind of screw things up for you. I imagine the stress he's going through. Like, oh, my God, am I going to be able to get my job back next year? Or is something going to happen? Because all it takes is a person slipping or injuring themselves or something like that.
Well, you never know, right? The drainage. Like,
right.
Is the field draining properly?
Right.
Like, all these different things that us normal folk don't really take into consideration.
Yep. They're
taking into consideration. So I'm sure that day was just as hectic as the people who were in charge of the electricity when the Ravens and the 49ers were going and the power went out.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
You think about that all 22 shot of the football field that is famous before the Super Bowl starts. You got each team's colors or logos or names painted on each side and all this different stuff, man, that goes into prepping the field and getting it ready and looking like $1 million every time. He said he started Super Bowl I with a budget of $500, man.
Yep.
Can you imagine just trying to say, okay, $500 is your budget. I'm so ignorant to like what it actually takes and how much it actually takes. And then you're saying $800,000 to grow that field over there and, 18 months and all the time and money that it takes going in. I think the Broncos just spent like $100,000 to redo their sod here at Mile High or at, I don't know what it's called now. Whatever. But they just spent like $100,000 to do their sod. And, this has to happen multiple times. And the best playing field is grass. The turf's cool and everything, but that grass gives away a lot better than the turf does,
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, it's kind of the unforeseen costs, the hidden costs that go into putting on a great production for the Super Bowl.
And then for you kids out there, man, there's inspiration in everything, right? Again, George is 94 years old. He started his groundskeeping career at the age of 13 in 1942. He started his first job in the NFL in 1963 for the Kansas City Chiefs. And he was also the head groundskeeper in the 1984 and 1996 Summer Olympics. So if you're out there, these kids going door to door, you're shoveling a sidewalk, you're cutting somebody's lawn, whatever you're doing, motivation and staying determined and continuously working at what you want to do in life and pushing and setting goals for yourself, you can accomplish anything. So if George Toma can be doing this since 1942, so can you.
You started this quote from the story on Fox News. where he says, "I believe the grass we have today here is second best grass we've had for 57 Super Bowls."
Yeah.
He talks about it comes from the West Coast and it's a beautiful type of Bermuda Tahoma, and it's astounding. It's outstanding on the field right now, even if it's getting beat pretty good by the halftime show practices. He says, "I don't like them stamping on that good grass." He added while smiling. He said, "After they get rehearsed, we spend hours with brushes brushing it up, bringing the leaves to stand up again." That's wild. Like,
that's crazy.
The amount of care and thought that goes into it, which kind of, and then you think about the window you have for the halftime show and all the stuff that goes into it afterwards. Like, it's crazy, man. Like, it's crazy all the stuff that goes in that you don't really notice.
Well, even with grass, right? During the game, if there's a big chunk that gets taken out during the game, are they repairing that chunk or that patch? They're patching it up. You know what I mean?
Right.
So even people think their job's done when the game kicks off. No, their job isn't done until the game is over. And even after that, it's not done because they got to tear down, and depending on if the field where it belongs, or they're not just going to throw away $800,000. So, they got to try to keep it and utilize it the best that they can and not waste their money.
So it's seeming like this is going to be George's last Super Bowl.
Yep.
He thinks it's going to be one of the best ones that we've had in a while. I think it's one of the best matchups in a long time between the Eagles and Chiefs, and I think the fans will see a very interesting game, he said. When asked about which team he was rooting for, the Pennsylvania-born Toma recalled an amusing exchange with the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell when the Chiefs played in the Super Bowl back in the Super Bowl 54 in 2020. He said, "I told Roger I have to stick up for the Chiefs because I work for the Chiefs and Lamar Hunt, and I are very, very close." And he said, "George, you work for the league. The league pays you. You have to be normal." I think it's cool, man. I think of all the cool jobs that you can have, I think that's got to be one of them. Working on whether it be the grounds crew. I know we were talking earlier before we started recording. I was talking with Vita a little bit, and we have some family friends that worked for the Broncos, and whether it be we talked about Abe with the grounds crew and work making that place look beautiful, but also a couple of friends of ours that they worked behind the scenes in terms of the equipment or getting the equipment shipped out for road games. And dude, I think if you work in that close hand in hand to any professional team, I think that's got to be a pretty cool job, man, and that's got to be something that you're trying not to get rid of anytime soon.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, but it's the big game.
It's the big game.
It's Super Bowl time. Eagles, Chiefs, it's going down. Let's talk about it, man. We said we're going to preview it. What are you looking forward to most about this game? Before we pick our winners and losers, let's just talk about what you're looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to a good game. I think, a lot of times, sometimes you get matchups that aren't the best matchups, right? You get a team that all of a sudden got hot and they make the Super Bowl, but the team they're playing is a juggernaut compared to them. I think a lot of times you don't always get the best matchup to rise. The crazy thing about the NFL is like it's one and done in the playoffs, right? Whereas like in basketball or in baseball, even hockey, the cream usually rises to the top. So you get a series, and you got multiple games to right the ship, right, so to speak. In football, you go out there and have a bad day, you're done. Look at Buffalo and Cincinnati, right? Like Buffalo was like the darling to win the Super Bowl or to get to the Super Bowl, and Cincinnati had different plans and went in there and handled business. So I think with the NFL, it's so hard sometimes to get the very, very best teams that finish out in the Super Bowl. How many number 6 seeds have we had that made it to the Super Bowl or won the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
So I think this matchup is actually a true matchup of the two best teams in the league this year.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's the trenches, man. We're trenches guys. I'm looking forward to the battle there. The Eagles' line has been impressive offensively for this playoff run that they're on.
Yeah.
Starts with Kelsey, of course, dead center of that line. But I think they've rushed for 416 yards and 2 lopsided wins, And you got Kelsey, Johnson, Mailata, Dickerson and Simalu. Forgive me if I pronounce that wrong. And then you know they're going up against Chris Jones and company, and it's going to be a battle, bro.
Well, and a Chris Jones that suddenly woke up.
Yeah.
You know, he's had a lot of regular season success, but he's kind of disappeared in the playoffs. Teams have done a good job of kind of isolating him and not letting them beat him. And the Bengals had no answer for Chris Jones whatsoever. And he got his first 2 career sacks in the playoffs against the Bengals, and he's playing really, really well right now. It's going to be a task for Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, and them boys. But the Eagles do have a really good offensive line.
They have
a damn good offensive line, better than I think the Chiefs' offensive line. Although that's very debatable too. I agree with you. I think it'll come down to the trenches, man. I think what Philly does defensively on that side of the ball, it was highlighted against the Niners.
They got a dog who is slept on, in my opinion, in the NFL. Bro, nobody gives Hassan Reddick the credit he deserves. Like, he is a man amongst boys sometimes out there. And
he was the best, in my opinion, of all the edge rushers that were available in the free agent market this past offseason. He had the best season of all of them, which no one really, expected so much. I mean, he was one of the only free agent acquisitions at the edge rusher that actually held up and had a great season. And he was dominant against the 49ers, man. He was everywhere.
And in all honesty, we don't like when we see people get hurt, and prayers out to Brock Purdy. But if he doesn't knock Brock Purdy out of that game, we could be talking about a whole different team today.
I've never seen a game's complexion change so fast and so early in a game. That was the third play of the game, man, and it was right after that it was done.
And that has to be a concern of the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Because Mahomes is not 100%.
Little gimpy on the leg. Can't get away as quickly. Mahomes is known for extending the play a little bit with his legs, and he did a really good job against the Bengals of still being able to do that. Picked up that penalty against Asai, at the end of the game there to put them in field goal position to win the game. But, he's had a couple of weeks to kind of rest that ankle up, but all it takes is one hit on there. Yeah. All it takes is one little roll up the wrong way or kind of step the wrong way to kind of re-aggravate that high ankle sprain. That's not something that goes away in 3 weeks. That's a 6 week kind of injury that it takes a lot of treatment and a lot of work to kind of get rid of that. So it'll be interesting to see if the Eagles can kind of live on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Fletcher Cox is a force down low, and he's been with the Eagles now, it seems, forever. Mm-hmm. And he's that old wily veteran now. Back when they played the Patriots in the Super Bowl, he was still kind of young and up and coming, and now he kind of anchors that defensive line. And it'll be interesting that chess matchup, what Andy Reid does to kind of neutralize them guys, because there's got to be something. But then I think back to with the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers with the Chiefs and how a defensive line and pass rush kind of just disrupted that whole thing and turned it upside down. And it was just a runaway victory for the Buccaneers at that point versus the Chiefs. So I'm interested to see if the Eagles can kind of do the same thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm interested to see what kind of stunts they throw at them, you know what I mean? And are they just bringing Reddick from the edge? Or are they going to bring him inside and have him run A-gap? Like, there's all kinds of interesting things that they can do with him. For me, man, there's a lot of great pass rushers in the league. He has to be, if not the top, but one of the top get-offs in the league. Like, his get-off is so ridiculous, bro. His speed is ridiculous. But there's also another aspect to this game that no one's talking about, right? Philly's the favor, and everybody's putting respect on their name. But no one is giving any credit to the defense coordinator on the other side of the ball, Spags.
Yeah.
He's a 2-time Super Bowl winning champ.
All-time great defensive coordinator.
And his 2 Super Bowl victories beat top offenses in the league those years. So he knows how to beat a top offense. And again, he's a guy who's going to do what he does, all the proper preparation to put the game plan together, and then he's going to have his players execute it. And if they rally behind each other like they did against Cincinnati, we're in for a good show.
Well, and on the flip side, his counterpart, I would argue Jonathan Gannon for the Eagles. He knows how to call great defense. I think there's reason why the Colts, the Cardinals haven't filled them coaching vacancies.
Yep.
And I honestly feel like Gannon might be on their radar for that reason. What I'm interested in seeing is, we talked about the trenches, and that's where it all starts at, right?
Yep.
I'm interested in seeing if these guys are able to hold up on the back end. You know, with A.J. Brown and the Slim Reaper going out there trying to do things, with the just mixed match of personnel that the Kansas City Chiefs can throw out there, with Pacheco, with Valdez Scantling, you know, with Travis Kelce. Like, how do they hold up on that back end? Because if these offensive lines can give a little bit of time, that could very well expose these defenses on the back end. Yeah. I know the Niners were talking about it a lot, and it's easy to talk crap after you've been beaten, you know. But Ayuk came out saying, hey, we noticed some stuff on their back end that we could get to had we been able to get to it, and not, you know, ifs and nuts, right? Yeah. But had we been able to get to it, it would have been a different game. And I wonder if these offensive lines are able to hold up just a little bit, give Mahomes some time, give Hurts some time, what can they do? That Philly offense is so dynamic in the way they can attack things. Just when you think you've contained Jalen Hurts, he hits, you know, Devontae Smith over the top. He hits A.J. Brown over the top. Even Goddard. I mean, they've got weapons all across the board on that.
Could this have been any more of almost a mirror match? Right? They're pretty similar in teams, like great defenses, powerful offenses. I think both game plans are going to go in there, and they're going to say, listen, we got to get the ball out quick, or we're going to have to let our mobile quarterbacks extend the plays and move outside of the pocket, because we're not going to have the time that we think we're going to have. You know, regardless how good the offensive line are, there's two defensive lines that are dogs, and I guarantee you the game plan is to get it out quick. So
there was this interesting little kind of piece that I kind of talked to you about a little bit and shared with you a little bit. It was about the Chiefs and the Eagles, and it was, you know, how they're so evenly matched. They both have the same record. They both were number one seeds. They both, you know, had scored the same amount of points on the season. They both, you know, have dominant players and Pro Bowl players, equal amount on each side. So I think you're right. I think this is one of those games where it's like you're almost playing yourself. You're almost playing, you know, and how different are the systems in Philly than what Andy Reid run and what Andy Reid used to run? You know, they used to run very similar systems back then. So, wow, this is an interesting little topic you just threw at me. The most evenly matched in 25 years conference title games. So that was for the conference title games. So, I mean, yeah, I think you're right, man. I think this Super Bowl has potential to be one of the great ones.
Yeah.
Would it surprise you if this turned into a defensive battle?
No.
Just knowing how disruptive that front seven can be?
No, it wouldn't surprise me at all, but I'm not hoping for that. I'm hoping for an offensive
You want that shootout?
You know, I'm hoping for a shootout. I think, you know, that honestly for the Super Bowl, we like to see those kind of exciting things. We talked about the UFC, right?
Yeah.
And if you prefer a grapple match or you prefer a slugfest in the Super Bowl, I prefer a slugfest personally. You know, I love to see defensive, you know, chess matches to where it comes down to a field goal in the game. But, man, I think the Super Bowl is all about the show.
So, you know, there's a lot of Super Bowl records that have stood for a little bit of time, and things that have stood for a little bit of time. There's one that I wonder if it's going to get beat this year, and it's rushing yards by a quarterback. And I think right now the Super Bowl record for rushing yards by a quarterback is like 65 yards. And I wonder do you think Jalen Hurts is going to get a chance to put his stamp on this game with his feet?
Ooh, I ain't one of those betting sites, but that sounds like a pretty good bet for somebody to put out there. You know what I mean? Vegas, you know, you put that bet out there, I think you're going to have a lot of takers. I think that's a good bet, man. I think Jalen Hurts definitely has the possibility to get those yards, and why he has that possibility is because he's going against such a great pass rush, right? He has to get it out quick or move and extend that pocket. So I do think that he will.
So when I tell you the quarterback that has the record for rushing yards, tell me how you think this quarterback compares to Jalen Hurts.
Can I guess?
Sure.
I don't know why, but in my gut, it's telling me John Elway.
That's a good guess, but it's not Elway.
Okay.
It happened in Super Bowl 34 to Steve McNair.
Oh, okay.
He rushed for 64 yards. But Steve McNair was a guy that can throw the ball.
Air McNair.
He can throw the ball, but people forget his ability to run the ball and how tough he was as a runner at times.
That Super Bowl was amazing.
The 1 yard short of victory.
God, bro.
Yeah, that was a great
Greatest
Super
show
Bowl.
on turf.
Yep.
That was amazing Super Bowl. That's one of my favorite Super Bowls of all time because that's one of our questions, right? And I was pulling up another moment, but I forgot about it for a second. That has to be one of my top.
Some sideness now to it. That Super Bowl is the last time that an NFL MVP that would just, that's playing in the Super Bowl won the game. There has been 9 MVPs to play in the Super Bowl since then. Over.
So you're saying that Pat Mahomes isn't going to get it done, or do you say one record is guaranteed to get beat this Sunday?
Yes.
Either the rushing yards, or there's going to be an MVP to win the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Easy bet there.
Nah, man. It makes you wonder though. Like, you would expect. It's kind of like the Heisman in the national championship game, and they don't always, like a Heisman Trophy winner make it to the national championship game. They don't always win that thing though.
Yeah.
And it goes to that more of that team success versus individual success. But I just thought it was interesting, man. I heard them talking about it on the radio the other day, and they were talking about the last 9 times that an MVP's actually played in the Super Bowl, they've lost, and so it makes you wonder if that's going to happen again. We'll get into our Super Bowl predictions here in a second. So I don't want to say whether I believe that's going to happen or not, but I do know that Philly does pose a huge threat towards Mahomes' comfort.
Yeah.
Right. We kind of highlighted it a little bit with their ability to rush the passer. There's always an unsung hero in the Super Bowl, right? There's always that dude that you wasn't expecting. Do you see a Hassan Reddick type MVP performance, right? Do you see perhaps a Isaiah Pacheco, shining, winning the MVP? One of the popular bets out there right now, and I'm not condoning, gambling. You do you, boo boo. But one of the popular bets out there is Travis Kelce winning the MVP.
I was just getting ready to say his name. I think being there for so long, getting towards, some may say, the latter end of his career, maybe it's deserving for Travis Kelce to win. But I can tell you this right now. If Hassan Reddick performs like he did in the conference championship game, we will have a defensive MVP because he's going to take that game and he's going to turn it over.
I think with the way, and you can argue that Aaron Donald could have won MVP last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the way these front sevens play, it's very possible that you don't see a Patrick Mahomes or a Jalen Hurts win MVP this year. I think it's possible you can see, a skill position player or an unsung hero, a defensive player win MVP. And the reason why I say that is if these defensive lines and pass rushers are getting to the quarterback and disrupting things, causing them to throw the ball sooner than they want to throw the ball, causing them to make mistakes, I can really see other players taking advantage of that. I was talking with a buddy at work, and we are talking about Travis Kelce winning MVP, right? And I was like, well, yeah, Patrick Mahomes would have to throw some interceptions, would have to have, because if he throws 3 touchdowns to Travis Kelce and 300 yards, it's going to be the MVP, right? But if he has, 2 or 3 touchdowns to Kelce and perhaps some fumbles or interceptions, or it just isn't clean, that's how another person can kind of sneak in there and win that MVP, getting that MVP talk. So it made me wonder, what my dream is for an MVP this year?
Offensive lineman.
Lane Johnson.
Hey, so check this out. So
Jason Kelce.
While you're talking, right, I'm looking some things up. And we talked about Travis Kelce.
Okay.
And we just talked about offensive linemen winning the MVP. It should happen, man. Give some love to the trenches.
Hey, that front seven, come on.
No offensive lineman, tight end, kicker, or punter has ever won the award.
Wow.
Ever.
Well, Jason Kelce, time to stand up.
Or Travis Kelce.
Time to stand up.
One of you guys got to get it done, man.
It is funny because you think about field goal kickers like,
Vinatieri
winning the Super Bowl multiple times.
Tom Brady gets all this love.
Yeah,
if it wasn't for Vinatieri, bro, they wouldn't have been in a lot of those Super Bowls.
He's the true MVP.
Yes,
he's
the
true MVP. But I was also one example that came up to me when we were talking about, and I was talking to my buddy at work about MVP and about it being non-quarterback, is the time that Deion Branch won it over Tom Brady. You know, so it's possible to happen. It doesn't happen often, and it's kind of like the MVP is like a quarterback deal these days. I mean, even like when you think, you know, the actual MVP award for the season, like Justin Jefferson had a great season. Like he had an MVP worthy season. You know, no love. You know, it went to Mahomes.
Think we get a rookie in there?
Pacheco?
Maybe Eagles side.
Who's on the rookie? Who's the rookie on the Eagles side? Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders got a sneaky chance for it too, but he's not a rookie.
He's not a rookie.
Slim Reaper, he's a couple years in. Goddard, Goddard would be a good pick too, bro. Goddard might be something you throw $5 at, see if you can hit on that. AJ Brown, like, wouldn't that be the ultimate like in your face to the Tennessee Titans? Not only did he kick their ass this year, but he comes and wins Super Bowl MVP. Like that'd be the dumbest trade in the history of trades, man. Next to the Russell Wilson trade.
Yeah, no, it would be crazy, man. I think honestly, I'm rooting for a tight end or offensive lineman. Screw everybody else.
Yeah,
I want to see some history be made.
Here's my thing, dog. The offensive lineman cannot really. They can go and play a perfect game, a clean game, and either quarterback can be completely clean, and the quarterback's gonna win the MVP, bro. Like they ain't gonna show. Like it's so hard for an offensive lineman to show up on a stat sheet, bro. Like and to make a difference. It's really, really hard, and it's almost. I'm almost willing to bet that an offensive lineman will never win MVP.
It won't, because you got to think about it like this, right? Just like you said, if they don't allow any sacks and the quarterback has a great game, quarterback's going to win it.
Or if a running back has a great game.
Or if the quarterback doesn't have such a great game, they still allow no sacks, but the running back goes off. You're going to have a running back MVP. And quite honestly, if the offense doesn't perform well, you're going to see a defensive MVP before you see an offensive lineman.
I know how we do this. Okay? This is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles' plan to get Lane Johnson an MVP. All right?
Dive.
Tackle eligible.
Yeah.
In the red zone twice.
Yeah.
And those be the only touchdowns scored.
That would be awesome.
Dude, I'm crying right now thinking about it.
Yeah. Hey, man, a lot of history is going to be made this Sunday, but we got to talk about past history.
Yes, sir.
What is some of your most memorable Super Bowl moments, or the most memorable? I can go first if you want, or if you got it right off the top, ready to fire it out.
I mean, one that always comes to mind, and it's because I'm here locally, is the Elway helicopter moment.
Yep.
You know, and I didn't grow up a Bronco fan, you know, and I'm not a Bronco detractor, so to speak, but that play was iconic in that this man had been to the Super Bowl previously and lost his ass off, and had the stamp of not being able to win the big game, and this was his first time back in a number of years. And early in the game, sometimes you got to rally your troops. You got to rally your team and show them, hey, they'll burn the ships. We're going.
And it was iconic too, right? Because let's keep it real. He was in the latter end of his career.
Yes, sir.
He's an older gentleman,
yep.
right? Going against at the time, one of the nastiest defenses in the league.
13-point favorite, Green Bay Packers.
Yeah,
defending
you know what
Super
I
Bowl
mean?
champs.
Like, so you got Big Gill, you know, you got Reggie White, you got all them guys out there.
And he got drilled.
And he got drilled, bro. It's a complete helicopter. It is a historic moment, you're right. Even being a Raiders fan, it's one that comes to my mind. But, you know, the other one that comes to my mind all the time is the David Tyree catch.
Yes.
You know,
in this stadium, I believe. Or was that New Orleans?
Phoenix, 2008.
It was in Phoenix, bro.
It was in
I'm
Phoenix.
telling you.
You're absolutely correct. Yep. And it was amazing, bro. It's one of the best catches in history. You know, Peyton had a little bit of fun the other day, kind of poking at his brother and kind of talking about the catch a little bit without, you know, kind of subliminally calling his brother out and saying how the little brothers like to steal the older brothers' shine and, you know, things like that. But it was a phenomenal catch. We talked about the greatest show on turf and Aaron McNair. Shout out to Aaron McNair and
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Gone way too soon. That was another great Super Bowl.
Dude, the crazy thing about that Tyree catch, if you don't have that, you've got the Patriots 19-0, probably. Miami no longer popping corks every time every team loses. Like it's just all the things that change from that. Is Eli as revered in New York? You know, that was his first Super Bowl victory. You know, what happens with Eli in New York because he was on some turmoil at that point. It's just a lot of things changed with that catch. Another one that comes to mind, dude, is the Scott Norwood miss.
Yeah,
I remember being a kid watching that game and seeing him push that was it far right, you know, just barely missing that. And what changes with Buffalo if that happens, if that doesn't happen? If Buffalo makes that field goal, they went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost, bro. That was the first of the 4. If they go to that, you know, it's different. Yeah. Do they have the hunger to get back to the next one, right? You know, there's so many different Super Bowl moments that I recall.
Where you got to think about Malcolm Butler, right?
Yeah.
The interception on the goal line. They should have run the ball.
Give the ball to Marshawn, bud.
Give the ball to Marshawn. You got beast mode, and you pass it, and Malcolm Butler is a star from that point on.
He got paid from that moment. You got the best short yardage running back in the league at that time, and you pass.
Another one, right? Another one. Great. Probably the GOAT. One of the GOATs. I won't say the GOAT because you got the human joystick too. But Devin Hester opening up the Super Bowl with the kick return. You know what I mean? Historic moment, exciting, set the game off with a high tempo. You know what I mean? So another great moment there. Man, there's
what about the lights going out? What about the lights going out?
We just mentioned it earlier. The lights going out and that changing the whole course of the game.
San Francisco was being dominated in that game. And they almost came back to take it. Man, I think about 28-3. You know, and how so I just moved back from Grand Junction during that time, and I'd won myself on this contest on the radio station out there to be in a pick'em for the playoffs, and the winner of the pick'em in the playoffs won a mini refrigerator with $100 worth of liquor in it and like $50 gift cards to the grocery store, right? And so I picked the Patriots to win, and my points were 56 points, right? I swear to God, dude. It's 28-3, and all I have to do is go over my points because no one else has higher points than me, right? It's 28-3, and the Patriots are losing, and I'm like, fuck, man, I'm gonna lose this. And I was good. All I needed was the Patriots to win. I didn't even need to hit my points. I just needed the Patriots to win.
Yeah.
And they came back and won.
And you did both.
I went and picked up my refrigerator, bro, the next day.
That's what's up. Hey, and you know what? You mentioned that game, bro. The moment in that game was the Edelman catch.
Yeah.
Remember the Edelman catch in traffic, kind of ball bobbled around, and he got it when everybody thought he didn't catch it. Great moments, man. The Super Bowl is truly and will always be a great sporting event in history. We'll always love it. It's probably going to be one of the most viewed events always.
It always is.
You know,
and we talked about a little bit about the halftime performances, and you brought up how these halftime performances aren't paid performances.
Yep.
And this is why. This is why. You've got the eyes of the world on this one event. I mean, if you look at the cost of commercial advertisement for the Super Bowl and the average cost of a 30-second spot for the Super Bowl, like there's a reason why this stuff is the way it is. And it's because it's one of the greatest sporting spectacles on the face of the earth. Yep. And you know, it does better numbers than almost every other sporting event. I don't know how the World Cup does because soccer is a little bit more of a world sport.
Yeah.
But, yo, Super Bowl Sunday, it's a holiday in America.
It is, man. Everybody has to have good food, good company, the biggest TV. There's a reason why the TVs go on sale before the Super Bowl because everybody got to have the biggest TV in the crib.
You get better TV prices for like the build up to the Super Bowl than you do on Black Friday.
I know. It's crazy. Hey, but it's the greatest game played. In my opinion, man, I love football. There's no other sport like it. I love other sports, but for me, my heart, my passion is football. And it wouldn't be the same without the Super Bowl. So, you know, I'm excited for it. Who you got winning? Let's talk about it.
We getting down to that part. We're getting down to that part. Well, I think we've outlined a lot with this game and a lot with these teams. I think these are the two best teams that are playing. These have been the two best teams in the season all year long. Mm-hmm. I think the best team, in my opinion, all year long has been the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think they're going to win this Super Bowl. I know they're only like a 1.5 favorite. So I picked them to win. And I think I'm going to pick Jalen Hurts to win MVP. and I think we're going to go 34
Ooh,
27.
You went
No. Excuse me, 34-28. Okay, and it's going to be one on the last drive of the game, and Jalen Hurts is going to lead them down there and win it.
Interesting. I'm not gonna lie. I honestly, coming into this game, rocking with Philly.
Okay.
Right, I'm rocking with Philly, but same feeling that I had last week when I was rocking with Cincinnati before I picked the Chiefs. Same feeling, you know what I mean? It's Pat Mahomes, it's Travis Kelce, it's Andy Reid. We haven't even talked about this is the Andy Reid Bowl.
This is true.
He's going up against his old team.
This is true.
Got a chip. He wants to win the ship, and I'm gonna rock with the Chiefs in a comeback victory.
Okay.
Not quite Patriots,
Okay.
but a comeback victory. Down at halftime, 28-14. Come back to win the game, 35-38 by a field goal.
Okay. Well, let's just hope that 8-8 stands up for at least one of them quarters, so I can hit one of my football square pools. I like it, man. It sounds like you've got. The thing is, from here,
MVP Travis Kelce. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that.
There we go.
History.
There
We're
we
making
go.
history.
Let's go.
We're making history.
You know what? Tight ends are like glorified offensive linemen too. They just get to go out for the pass. So I feel the love there. This Super Bowl has so many interesting stories that we haven't even touched on. Obviously, you got the Kelce brothers playing against each other. You just mentioned the Andy Reid Bowl, Andy Reid's former team. It's been a few years, but there's still some fingerprints of Andy Reid on that team. We've got Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, the first two African American quarterbacks to play against each other in the Super Bowl, and there's a lot of great storylines to this Super Bowl. So I'm just hoping that at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, the smoke clears and the last piece of confetti has fallen. I just hope that it's a great game, and I hope that it's just a highlight for this game that we love, this game that we coach, this game that we've played, and that we give a lot of time and energy to. I hope it's just a highlight for football and for games to come and for things to come. All we can do is hope for a great game.
Yeah, that's all I want. I just want to see an exciting game, and it's. Everybody say your prayers, put your hands over all those athletes that are going out there to put a show on for us. Let everybody get through that game injury-free and enjoy their day and their moment in their life, because this is a monumental moment in their lives. They've all been working hard to get to this moment, and whether they play in the game or they're just a role on the sideline, they deserve everything that they're getting. So, shout out to all of them. But you brought up a key piece of history that's actually our mailbag question as well, so we'll get to that in a second.
Okay, yeah, I did, and I want to ask you before we get to that. We didn't talk about the commercials at all.
We didn't.
Do you have a Super Bowl commercial that just always lives in your brain, or that you can go fall back to, or that you could think of, man? Like,
I don't know why, but I remember, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but Doritos went heavy on the commercials, and there was the one where they're in the labor room and the lady's giving birth, and she shoots out the bag of the new Doritos. That commercial sticks in my head forever. There's a lot of them.
Is that the one where the dad is like teasing the baby in the ultrasound with the Doritos?
Yeah, there's like so many different commercials that are heartfelt, great commercials that are needed, and then there's good entertaining commercials, and that one for some reason is the first one to pop to my mind when you ask that question.
I always think about Budweiser, Bud Light, the Clydesdales.
Oh yeah, or the Frogs back in the day.
Wow, that's where it evolved to. Like, I remember back in the day, they used to have the beer bottle set up and they're playing the football game, the Bud Bowl, but then I think about Bud.
Wise.
Yeah. Always fun, like you said, man. I think
free promo. Shout us out.
Yeah, hook it up, man. We'll take a case. I think, like you said, man, it's fun to see the fun commercials. There's always some heartfelt, serious ones, and respect to that. I think that's a great thing about that platform is it allows you to put your voice out there. It allows you to get your voice out there. And I think that should be allowed. Some people don't like all the politics, and neither do I. Like, I hate the separation in the division, but that's people's right to kind of put that stuff out there. So, I respect the right and freedom of people to do things. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to the commercials just as much as I'm looking forward to the game. You did bring up a piece of history, and it is a mailbag question from our girl Vita out in Denver. What are your thoughts on the first two African-American quarterbacks to play against each other in the Super Bowl?
I think the timing couldn't be any more perfect.
Right.
Honestly, when you think about it, we are in February. It's Black History Month, so why not make a little bit of Black history, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's truly remarkable to see these two men, first of all, young men.
Yeah.
They could also be, if Jalen Hurts wins the game, he could be amongst an elite group of young men who have been the youngest quarterbacks to win the Super Bowl. So I think there's a lot of history surrounding these two young men, and the fact that they're African American in February is a little bit more special, and shouts out to them and everybody out there who this is going to resonate with a little bit more than it would necessarily someone else. So I think it's big for humanity.
Yeah. I think, anytime it's the first of anything, it's always a big deal. I look forward to a time in our life where we're not identifying the first for this or the first for that in terms of race. I think a lot of that stuff can kind of be seen as divisive, but also at the same time, it's seen as representation.
Yes,
it's
sir.
seen as a way to get there, and I respect that part of it. I'd be remiss if we didn't continue on, and I didn't mention Doug Williams. MVP of Super Bowl 22, first African American quarterback to win a Super Bowl. There was a time, and this is why, as much as I hate the division, being pointed out about race with each other.
Yeah.
This is also a time though where you got to reflect and understand that there was a time where the African American quarterback was thought to be too stupid, too dumb, to not understand and grasp offenses, right? And I think we're past that. I think we've been long past that idea, and I think it having these two gentlemen, these two young men play against each other in the Super Bowl can kind of give more representation and understanding to people who may be in the dark about that kind of thing, to understand like, it don't matter who you are, where you come from. You put in the work, you sacrifice, and you do what's necessary to get there. Mm-hmm. You can get there. And I hope little African-American boys, brown boys, black boys, white boys, yellow boys, I hope they can see this and they can understand that, this is something I can do.
For sure.
Patrick Mahomes comes from a mixed family, right? It's important that people see representation, that these are American men.
Yes.
Right? These are young men that are out there that have done the work, that have put in, the necessary time to get there. And I give them their flowers now, man. I'm super excited to see the matchup. I hope it's a great matchup. I think it should be. I mean, they're two of the most exciting quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, you tell me who's more exciting. The things that Patrick Mahomes does to extend the play, the way Jalen Hurts can just turn on the jets on you, run your ass over, but throw over the top on you. They're unique talents, and I'm super excited to see them, bro, and I'm rooting for them both. Like I said, I already picked Jalen to win the MVP. I think his story is great, coming from what he went through at Alabama, going to Oklahoma. Just last year, there were like questions of whether he would be the guy. Had a great season last year. It wasn't over the top, but it was solid. And to see where he's at now, MVP candidate,
For both of them, right? Because no one probably ever even expected Pat Mahomes from Texas Tech to be the guy that he is today.
When the Chiefs moved up to get him, it was like, who?
Yeah, so, shout out to both of them. I'm hoping, you said that, we're way past that, but there still are a lot of racial barriers for a lot of people, not just African Americans, but there are still a big one in the NFL. And hopefully this breaks the barrier and we start to see more African American head coaches. Eric Bieniemy deserves a shot. I've been a big advocate for him for a long time, and I think it's about that time where someone gives him the shot to see what he could do with his own team. We've seen a lot of success with first-year head coaches in other places, and maybe he can have the same amount of success.
And it's a different conversation, and I know we're trying to wrap up here, but, the Rooney Rule, was put in place to kind of give opportunities to minority candidates. And I feel like sometimes that Rooney Rule is used as a token interview, and I don't really fully buy into it. You know, you see folks like Eric Bieniemy, Steve Wilkes, these guys that are definitely overly qualified to do the job. You know, shout out to D'Amico Ryans getting that job in Houston. You know, there's something to be said about representation, and I get that. There's definitely something to be said about representation. You know, as long as we come together, though, man, we can move mountains together opposed to apart. So, Dom, as usual, brother, I appreciate you, man. This has been a great episode.
Great episode.
Talking about that Super Bowl.
Hey, and to keep it real with the viewers, you know, it was a ad-libbed one. It was a pivot, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes some things just don't go the way they're planned. But here at DNA, we don't ever stress over pressure, baby. Diamonds are created in pressure, and that's what we are. We're diamonds.
Got to be adaptable, got to adjust.
And we got to shout out some more diamonds. We want to shout out Arsenal Custom Apparel, Rebel Promotions, Black Sevens, Genesis Catering, Lashall Beauty, you know, the Denver North Junior Wrestling crew, DNA DenverSports.com. Check us out. Book a session. Check out a podcast. Just get us a mailbag question. Whatever you got to do, man. Show some love. But I got a special shout out I got to give today, Coach.
Go ahead, man.
I want to give a special shout out to my sister, Nicole Nagel. She's one of the most kind-hearted, good people that I know. And if it wasn't for her, I don't think I would be the same man that I am today. You know, her heart is infectious, and it rubs off on you. And she taught me how to have compassion and empathy for people. And I love her with all my heart. And I just want to give a shout out to my sister. Happy birthday, sis.
Happy birthday to you. Hey, man, we appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, DNASportsDenver.com. Hit up the website. Follow us, like us, share us. Do whatever you got to do, man. Tell a friend about us. Bring somebody next time. But, yo, as always, man, with my partner, Dom, I'm Coach Al. We appreciate y'all tuning in. And until next time, y'all, peace.
DNA Sports.